Hello world, and welcome to another video. This one's quite an exciting one. I'm going to be spending a few minutes introducing you to the new DxO PureRAW 4. This is going to be a video that is sort of a combo of a what's new video and also a getting started video. You may say to yourself, but wait, I thought you were kind of the photo lab guy. And yeah, I am. I am mostly a photo lab guy, but I do have a very particular use case for PureRAW 4. I'm not going to suggest that everyone who's into Photolab would also necessarily need PureRAW. My own use case for PureRAW in actual practice is times when I take photos of events and I arrive home from those events with 2,000 images. And I have a natural tendency that if I start to look at those images, if I start to dive into those images, I will spend way too much time mucking about, really not doing anything of import. So yeah, it's really to keep me focused. So my workflow in that instance is I don't even look at the photos. I run them straight through PureRAW, and I don't go to Photolab, and then I run them straight through another application called Radiant Photo, which does some sort of automatic adjustments to them. And then I go through and I cull based on that, because I've got a pretty good, if those two pieces of software together can bring a decent image, then it's worth culling. And if not, it's going to be quite a bit more work, and unless it's super special, I won't even try. So that's my use case for it. And so again, if I'm using PureRAW, I don't use Photolab. If I'm using Photolab, I don't use PureRAW. I am primarily a Photolab guy. A couple of quick caveats up front. One is I am working with a beta copy of the software, so it might not be 100% as it will be when it launches. And I also just wanted to let you guys know that recently I have been doing a little bit of work with DxO, creating some videos specifically for them. So I just wanted to say that, because you might think, look, you're just trying to sell DxO product and whatever. I know it goes that way sometimes, but I'm actually not trying to sell. I'm just sharing a new product with you. I definitely, sort of my motto is use what you love and love what you use. And I don't ever try to say that everybody should use all DxO products all the time. I happen to love them, and because of that, I share stuff about them. I definitely recommend you try this out first, see if it suits your needs. There's a link to a trial in the description. There's also a link to purchase in the description if you are, maybe you've already been using it and you know that you want to buy it. So those links are there. Those are affiliate links. And I do appreciate if you can use those. They will support the channel, but I swear I am not trying specifically to sell you anything. I am just letting you know a bit of info so that you can make an informed decision when you go ahead. So I will pop a wee bullet list up of the updates, and rather than me kind of reading through those one at a time and boring us all half to death, I'm just going to go ahead and start the getting started with PureRAW, and I'll point things out as I'm going that kind of highlight the updates that have happened. So let's start things off. So you can see here that I am already in the lightbox, but let's back up a step and just say, okay, well, what you've got some images, and how do you get images into it? Well, I'll just come up here and clear the lightbox. And when I do, I get this big old plus sign here to add raw files. I get a big old plus sign up here to add some photos to PureRAW. And I can also just pop up a folder, which is how I tend to do it, navigate to wherever it is my photos are, and then just select them and drag them across, and things will load up. If you're in default setup, you can quickly notice that this has put the images in based on ISO, so greater than 1600, 400 to 1600, and less than 400, just so that you can, and I think this is a really nice way to do it, because you might actually process things slightly differently depending on how noisy they might be, depending on how high the ISO was that you were working with. If you do want to change that, you can just come up here and you can change that to date or name, etc. Sometimes I do name, depends on what the photos are. If it's in my workflow where I was talking about just bringing the photos in, not even looking at them and processing them, I will tend to just pop them in by name, but whatever works. Now, another thing to think about is that you actually don't even need to launch this application. I probably don't absolutely need to do this, but I'll clear my Lightbox again and come back down here to my images. And I've got a bunch of raw images selected, and that's an important thing because if I had JPEG selected, for example, this next bit wouldn't happen. If I right-click on there and then come to Show More Options, you can see I get a host of different options for DxO PureRAW. So right from the Finder window or the Explorer window on Windows, you can get at some options to process straight away without even opening the application. But again, I'm not going to do that now. Pardon me. I'm just going to bring my images back in. And once you bring images in, you'll notice that these are actually all selected. And if I want to only select a few of them, I need to just click away to deselect them and then go ahead and click any ones that I want to select. It's kind of a click on and a click off in order to do that. Now, before I move forward, I'll first point down here to this new button, which might have caught your eye, Process with Preview. So one of the things that's been updated is there have been workflow enhancements. And one of the workflow enhancements is this new Process with Preview button. We'll get to that in just a minute. Before I go to that, I wanted to point that out first so that I can then come up here to the File menu and go to Preferences. Now, once we come to actually setting up some processing, there are a couple of bits in here that might be important. So first of all, processing technologies. High quality and good old-fashioned prime no longer show by default. So if I went in and started to process, I would only see DeepPrime and DeepPrime XD2. I just gave a little spoiler away there. And so I can click this, and then it will have 4 options for me, if I'm keen on that. And the reason I suppose that I might be keen on that is if, these images down here that were less than 400 probably don't need the more intensive processing and can probably get away just absolutely beautifully with just high quality. So it's a possibility if you're keen on that. The other thing I can point out is there's this enable automatic preview calculation, and that is in conjunction with this process with preview down here, if your computer can handle it, because of course the denoising process, denoising and demosiacing kind of going together there, is fairly intensive. And you can see I've got a graphics card installed. My computer will handle it quite nicely. If your computer is doing okay with it, then you might want to leave that on because it'll save you some clicks down the street. But if your computer is struggling a little bit, then you might want to unclick this, and that way you can just process when you're ready to process and then let that happen. So I'll click these 2 things on and click Save. So let's get into actually looking at the processing. And of course we will go to, because it's exciting, I'll select one image. I'll select 2 images, why not? And come down here to Process with Preview. Now, when I come in, you can see actually all of the images are in here. Just there are ticks next to the 2 that I selected. So it's not too much of a worry because you can see here. But I'll just click over to there. Now, what are we seeing all in here? Well, first of all, you can see I've got this split view. Original RAW and DeepPrime XD2 is currently turned on. Coming over to the right, we have a bunch of options. Now, I've turned on my high quality and my prime, so those are options for me, but I've also got DeepPrime and DeepPrime XD2. So, of course, one of the absolute major updates to the software is that there is a new version of the DeepPrime XD, which is, well, let's drop this down. Oh, it's gone outside for you guys. It says DeepPrime XD2 surpasses DeepPrime, leveraging advanced AI and deep learning for superior image demosaiking, noise processing, and analysis. It delivers faster and more exceptional results, extracting finer details while maintaining high-quality noise reduction. So, I was doing some videos previously that will come onto DxO's channel that had some creatures with fur in them, and unbelievable the level of detail that it was pulling out. And so I wasn't able to find any fur for this video today, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of a sense. So improved new algorithm. Let's call that tick number 2. So item number 1 that was updated is this improved workflow, which we're seeing part of that here, but I'll actually show there's even in the sort of, doing air quotes now, old-fashioned way of going about your processing, even that has been redesigned. And personally, I find it quite tidy. I quite like it. But moving on down, another of the standout features is the optical corrections have been improved. So we've got the lens softness. You can, get at your various choices here. Within here, you can kind of turn down how much that correction. So lens softness means it's doing sharpening based on the lens profile that DxO has created. That, for example, sometimes lenses aren't quite as sharp in the corners as they are in the center. So it uses mathematical modeling to apply sharpening across the image according to the profile of the lens. So it's applying sharpening. So if you do softer, it won't be quite as sharp. So if you have something, maybe perhaps a portrait or something, where you don't want to absolutely blast all of the pores, for example, you might want to turn that down. And you'll find, just give a play and check it out. Find your happy place with this. Soft, standard, strong, etc. Now, before I go too far, I should actually pop back up one step and just show you another sort of slightly redesigned thing within the DeepPrime XD2 space and also the DeepPrime space. We have these luminance and force detail sliders that give you a little bit more. It's got its standard starting place, but this gives you a little bit more ability to fine tune. So luminance, if I were to crank this down, it lets through a little bit more luminance noise. If I were to crank it up, it will take away a bit more luminance noise. With this force details, if I pull that down, things get a bit more painterly. Actually, it shows up pretty nicely on this one. You can see here, I've got some navigation items down here. I'm going to just zoom this in. This image was, there it goes. This image was shot on it's down here, 22,800. So if I take force details all the way down, things will get, just let it render there, things will get very smooth. And if you bring them all the way up, it will try to pull maximum detail out. Now, of course, neither of those extremes looks great. And it's going to be on an image by image basis based on your taste and what you're trying to achieve. Probably you won't go all the way up, but maybe you want to bring it up just a little bit, for example. Who knows? But play with it, give it a try. There's now the ability, you don't have to, you can leave this folded up and it'll just do things sort of automatically and it'll do them to a nice standard. But if you want to, you can drop that down. Now, just coming back to this image, and probably it is prudent to just quickly come up here to File, Preferences, to turn off Processing Preview and save, and just give you a sense of what that's like, because it does change your flow a little bit. For example, now if I zoom into 1:1, it will redraw. I'll get kind of in a place where I want to be. And you can see that it says preview not updated. So, it looks a bit noisy and it's not maybe looking what you were hoping. It actually does a little work on it. Sort of, I think Photolab does that too. It applies some of it, but it actually can't get a pure result until you create the preview. So I'll just update. And you see that this has gone milky smooth. This is sharpened up. This was just handheld. It was raining out. It might not be the absolute sharpest image, but I think it gives you a sense. And now as I move it, see how it's kind of gone away from where it had processed, and now it's saying preview not updated, and it wants you to press update again. So that's the thing about, if you have it turned on, you can just let it do its thing if your computer will handle it. If not, then make your changes. When you're all ready to go, then update your preview and see if you like your changes. So if we come here to output format, we've got DNG possibility, TIFF possibility, and JPEG with the wee smart lighting slider here. So only JPEG will have smart lighting applied if you choose. Of course, you can turn it off if you want to. You can see how much you want. So if I come over here and come down a little bit, we've got destination and then file renaming. So destination looks pretty similar. I think those are very similar options to what you would have had in the past. File renaming is a neat one. So basically, there's now sort of improved batch renaming capabilities within the software. So here there's a demonstration of what the file renaming would look like. And I can come here to edit, and I get this nice little interface. I can do some presets that exist, or I can sort of build my own. And the way the building goes, it goes with tokens, and this is the composition of things. So we've got the date as it's formatted, and then a hyphen, and then a file name. Now that looks a bit like an underscore, doesn't it? But if I come in here, it's just kind of a bit low. So that's a hyphen, and that's an underscore. So you just need to, it took me a minute when I looked at it, because I did that, and then I looked down here and I said, wait, that doesn't seem right. So, but anyway, that is a hyphen. And the way this works is, so right now this drop down has the file name tokens in it. If I were to click on date, now this drop down has the date tokens in it. Metadata, drop it down. So those tokens are now available. So if, for example, I don't think there's any creator put in here, but if I had creator in, I can, so I've already added a little hyphen up there, which I just did by clicking in and adding it. I can now click insert, and then it goes creator. And if there were a creator, it would add that in along the way. If I've messed up and I don't like something, I just click in, press my delete key. File name, maybe you go folder name, who knows? Folder name, insert. And then you can see an example of what that might look like down here. So I'll leave that like that, click OK, and come down one more little step to the export space. So with this export dialog, I'm actually going to circle back round to that in another part of this video, because if I drop this menu down here, it's going to go outside of the bit of my screen that I'm recording, and I can get at it better with another workflow that I'll be showing you in just a minute. So I'll come back to this one, but you have this ability to export. This says don't export after processing, which means it will just create the images and take you back to the lightbox, and that's it. But you have the possibility to send it to different applications, or to set up applications to send it to. And so we'll look at that. So maybe because queuing is a possibility, I'll just set this, rather than processing now, I've got these two images ticked, and I will add to queue. Deselect that. Let's say, for example, I came up to this image now. Process with preview. And I won't go through these again. I'll just add to queue. So now there's another item in there. And maybe, for example, I want to add this one in. And for this one, I'll use the process button here, which is sort of the, oh, you know what I did. I do this sometimes. You need to be a little careful with this. I added this to queue, and then I came back, and then I clicked on this, and now they're both selected. But I actually only want this one selected. So you do need to keep your eyes open for that. So I'll come there. Now I've only got the one selected. I'll go to process. And this is more of the old school method, but it's been redesigned and it looks a little bit different. So you can see here that there are corrections in the top space here, and you can see what those are. And we've got the output possibilities in the bottom space, and you can see what those are. And I'll just shift this to the side a little bit. If I click on Edit, it will open that up, and you see very similar options, just kind of broken up, and you can go through and set what you'd like to set for this. I'm happy with that as it is. And I go to, oh, actually, no, I'm not happy with that because I chose that image specifically because I thought that image was low ISO, probably doesn't need the DeepPrime. Let's do that one on high quality. I will leave the options, the default options, as they tend, for my money, to be absolutely fine. Close that down, click Apply, come to Edit. On Output, again, we see similar options for your output format, your destination, your file renaming, your batch renaming possibility, and this export dialog. Now let me just bring this up a little bit, and let me scroll down, and let me drop that down. There we go. Now we can see it just fine. So with this menu, I have the ability to send it to different applications after it's processed, or just go back to my Lightbox. It's entirely up to you. Lightroom Classic and Photoshop, if you have them installed, those will show up here automatically. You don't need to worry about it. All of these others I have added in using this select software choice. And quite literally, you just choose select software and it will give you a wee window where you navigate to the software you want to use to find the actual application. You know, if you're on Windows, it'll be in Program Files, probably. If you're on Mac, it will be in the Applications folder area. You know, so you just navigate your way to that application, choose it, and then PureRAW will remember that and add it to your list, and then you can just choose it quite quickly from there. But for now, I'm quite happy with don't export after processing. I'll leave that there. Bring this back down and apply, then add to queue. So now nothing's happening because what you might do is set all this up and then go for a coffee while things are processing. I can click on there, come in, and you can see the order of the queue that's set up, what's going to run, in what order. You have the ability to delete items from the queue. You can, if you want to, select an item here and reorder things. See how it's brought that line up there, and then I can release it, and you can reorder items in the queue. And then when you're ready, you can just go ahead and cancel all batches or press play and watch it go. Just letting this run for a minute to give you a sense of on my computer, and I do have a graphics card. It's not a crazy beefy computer, but it's reasonably grunty, but you can see it's going quite quickly. Nice. So back in the Lightbox here, you can see some items have little checks on them, and those are the ones that are processed. And you can also see that now it's got the JPEG showing, whereas the ones that aren't processed are still showing the NEF. If I click on here, I can always right click. You can see here I could send it to an application. I can compare processing results, display in Explorer. You know, a few options there on the right click. If I look at this, this spider was super easily spooked. He kept moving every time I had my macro lens on and he was eating this other spider, and I thought that was super cool. But he was not happy with having his photo taken. So this is showing us the processed JPEG and the original RAW and the difference there. So you can see down here, you know, that it's tidied up that noise. Personally, that amount of noise doesn't generally bother me too much, but you have to say it is very, very clean. There's no doubt. And if I come over, you can see just, I'm sure even on YouTube, you can see how that lens softness correction has added so much excellent definition through there. So I'll just use this X to come out of here. So that's my way back out. I never really talked about, you've got sort of make it fit. You've got 1:1, and then you've got various proportions that you can choose. If you want to really pixel peep, you can go 16:1. What would that even look like? Never clicked that before. That's fairly, really shows up the difference in terms of noise, though, doesn't it? Crazy. Let's go to something less crazy, like 3 to 1. One of the things I find really remarkable about this, and I mean, it's pretty true of previous PureRAW as well, but it just reiterates to me as I'm using it how it does such a nice job of not making out of focus areas crunchy. I have often noticed software that attempts to add sharpness to things will often make out of focus areas kind of crunchy, and really impressive that it doesn't here. We've got the before after. We've got the exit split view to access toggle view, so some different options down here. But anyway, I'm going to come out of here with my X. Just looking down at my list to make sure that I've talked about all the things I wanted to. New PureRAW XD2. We've got the ability to tweak those settings a little bit more than we had in the past. We've got improved lens softness correction. We've got improved workflow items, that batch renaming item. And of course, I haven't really touched on it at all because I'm not much of a Lightroom user, but there's great integration with Lightroom if you happen to use Lightroom. And so it comes down to the question, is it worth the upgrade? And that is the age-old question. I think everybody will have a different answer for that. Best I can say is give it a try. Like I said, there are some links in the description. Those are affiliate links, so whether you're trying or whether you're buying, I appreciate you giving those a click. But I definitely recommend, with any software, software is never for everybody. So definitely take some time. You get a good trial period to really, run it through its paces, see if it works for you. I think probably my favorite thing, because I'm not a high ISO shooter a lot of the time, my favorite thing is actually the workflow improvements and probably the ability, the new lens softness correction improvements that have been made. I think for me, the DeepPrime XD2 is absolutely stunning. Like, it blows my mind. To me, when I see it, the thing that really gets me is the level of my perceived realism. With some other situations, when I look at processed images, I feel like they look a bit more painterly. And I really feel like DxO has nailed, it might not be, I've sometimes heard people say that another application might be cleaner. And I'm not going to argue that. I don't know. But when I look at images that are cleaner, they tend to look more painted to me. With DxO, I find a really nice balance that there might be still just a hint of noise somewhere, but it is just stunning. Oh, now just before I drop off, let me show you an incredible comparison. I'll just be back in 2 seconds because I need to launch Photoshop. All right, so I am back, and just briefly, because I know this video is getting a little bit long, let me just show you this. So I took 3 shots of these ferns. One at 22,800, I believe. I think that was the ISO. It was definitely 22,000. I'm only questioning the how many hundreds. 22,000. One at about 2,500, and one at about 1,250. So that's the 3 images that you see stacked here. I brought them into Photoshop as JPEGs. So processed with DeepPrime XD2, exported as JPEGs, brought into Photoshop, put on top of one another and stacked just so it gets a little bit easier to look closely at things. And let's just have a peek. So first of all, I'll just put this layer back on, and I will zoom in, get it around 100%. There we go, that's 100%. And just let me show you. So I don't actually remember which of these is which. So just bear with me here and see if you can see any differences. Top one, turn it off. Turn it off. Bottom one. Don't see much difference. Let me go in a little tighter. There's 200%. Let's see if 200% will do it. Try to get some Get some good stuff there. So that's the bottom one. I'm going to watch the stock and see if there's any hints in this stock. No, not so much. I think maybe this one might be the lower ISO one. That stock does maybe look like it improved a little bit there. Or did it? Or is it a bit smoother? It's so hard to say. I actually don't remember what order I stacked these, and I really struggle to tell them apart at this point. And that's from, like I said, the noisiest one was at 22,800. It was during the day, but what I did was I increased my f-stop to, I think that lens would only go to f16, and then I just increased my shutter speed, and it was kind of a gray, cloudy day as it was, until it forced the ISO up, 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 and then I just eased back my shutter speed in order to bring it down and get some slightly cleaner images for comparison. But absolutely crazy. Certainly at that level, basically impossible to tell any difference. So with that, I think even with editing, this is going to be a long video. If you've stuck with me, thanks so much. Hopefully that's been helpful. If you have any questions or something you'd like me to particularly show, I'm sure I haven't covered everything. So pop something in the comments if there's a particular thing you'd like me to try and demonstrate for you. But other than that, thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.